One of the things that I read on one of the news sites recently, I believe it was My Nintendo News that I read from. I read something about the Activision Blizzard CEO, Bobby Kotick, saying something along the lines of, I guess he regretted ignoring the Nintendo Switch during its launch. And the reason being is because I guess when he saw the prototype, when it was first unveiled back in, I believe it was like sometime in like 2016 or something like that, when it was first unveiled, um, he didn't think the game system was going to be a massive success. Nobody predicted that the Switch console was going to um, be as popular or successful as it is. I think the Switch console is one of the best selling Nintendo consoles out there, next to like the Wii console, next to like the 3DS. But I do feel that Bobby Kotick, honestly, like the way he felt about the Switch console before its release, a lot of people were skeptical. It's not just him. And I think his biggest regret is not doing more with Call of Duty in relation to Nintendo Switch. But at the same time, you look at the year that Nintendo Switch came out, and you look at what Call of Duty game came out that year. Um, Honestly, I can see why he would have regrets, but at the same time, Call of Duty World War II from 2017, it didn't necessarily need to be on Nintendo Switch for it to be a massive success, because I believe the game reached like 19 million in terms of sales following its release. And prior to the release of Nintendo Switch, Call of Duty, like the series, has basically thrived on its own, especially during like the late 2000s, like early teens time period, with the Modern Warfare games and the first two Black Ops games, which, by the way, are like two of the best installments in the entire series. Um, I don't think that Call of Duty games being absent on Nintendo consoles would have had a negative effect. I mean, it didn't have a negative effect on Call of Duty in general. But yeah, I mean, if Call of Duty World War II came out for the Switch console back in 2017, it probably could have sold a couple of million. But let's be honest. You look at like Nintendo consoles in general, normally the first party games are the best sellers because they're promoted the most by Nintendo. And I believe the games that came out that year in 2017 that were really big was Super Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, I mean, I don't think like any third party game could have ended up surpassing those two games in terms of commercial sales or success or popularity on the Switch console. But at the same time, I mean, we could have gotten some like high profile Call of Duties on the Switch console years following 2017. But at the same time, I mean, one of the Call of Duty games, I believe it may have been like Call of Duty 4 or something, had it had the battle royale feature, which was something that was mainly for online gameplay. And I'm not exactly sure whether or not like cross play between the Switch and the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 would have worked well or not, because obviously the Switch is an inferior console power wise in comparison to its competitors in the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. But at the same time, I mean, like, Nintendo is most likely going to come out with a new game system sometime in the near future, and maybe Activision can pick up where they left off, or maybe do what they wanted to do in the past, with Nintendo, in terms of bringing like, high profile Call of Duty games to Nintendo consoles sometime in the future. And honestly, not having Call of Duty games on the Switch console is not too much of a big deal, because let's be honest, Nintendo Switch is more for children and for kiddie games and family friendly type of games, and the Xbox Series X along with the PlayStation 5 is more for an adult audience. And honestly, I do feel that Call of Duty necessarily does not need a Nintendo Switch, but yeah, I do feel that Call of Duty World War II, if it was on the Switch console, Activision definitely would have made more money for sure. But it makes you wonder what the future is going to look like with Call of Duty, because I believe Activision Blizzard it was acquired by Microsoft with that huge acquisition that took place this past year, and I'm not exactly sure that's something that'll happen. Like, Call of Duty games being on the Switch console is something that's, going to happen or what have you. But I do feel that I do feel that third party games stand out more on Xbox and PlayStation consoles than they do on Nintendo consoles. So it's not necessarily something that I don't think the CEO should beat himself up about too much or anything. Or but I do feel that things are going to be really different because if Call of Duty is going to be exclusively on Xbox platforms in the future, then this could change the whole landscape of gaming to a point where I believe more people are going to turn to Microsoft for first person shooters because let's be honest, Call of Duty is probably the biggest first person shooter video game franchise of all time, and it's something that doesn't look like it's going to change anytime in the near future.